You are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, and with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime.
How's it going?
No MT, at least to start. He may join us halfway through here, but rejoining us after way too long. The former Golden State beat writer for the Bay Area News Group, who covered the rise of a dynasty, a high profile sports author who's contributed to more media outlets than I care to listen, including Fox Sports Radio, Sports Central LA, and the Sporting Tribune, a fixture in the NBA mediascape, who took a charge from Ron Artest, earned a nickname from Bruce Frazier, and destroyed a mural of LeBron James, and a man who recently crushed me with a wedding photo I wasn't a part of, Mr. Mark Medina. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, Bram, forgot a few things. Also stole the ball from Nick Young, playing some great defense. And I did send Bram some amazing wedding photos where he's clapping for the lovely Valerie and I and me as if it's Steph Curry hitting this dramatic three-point shot. So you
Standing.
know what? He was not there for the group photo, but he made up for it with some epic candids.
Appreciate you really saying that. So I was going to give you a little shit for adding to your intro. You forgot that I stole the ball from you. Like, that's just, or nicely played by you. I will add that I was standing ovation in those photographs. I mean, I don't know, and
Strong clap
that's
game, strong
exactly
clap
right.
game as
And
well.
I mean, you say that kind of jokingly, but really, my clap game is unbelievable. I have annoyed people. I've sat next to people and had them tell me in kind of condescending, angry fashion, "Did you know you clapped loudly?" And it's like, yes, dude, they're my hands. Like 1,000%, I know that. I've been sitting through it a million times, and beautiful pictures, except for the one, Maxime, just to back my intro. This full that so for people who are not following along with the drama, Mark has been so nice, included me in his wedding. I was there, but was not there for when they went around and took the pictures at the tables. And Mark sent me the fucking photo of table nine with everybody and then an empty chair for me. And I've been feeling like an asshole for about a week. So there's your background.
Well, how about some speculation here tying it to the Warriors? I suspect the strong clap game is you're so used to sitting courtside, seeing Steph drain threes, drain threes, Draymond Green making defensive stops, Kevin Durant hitting fall away jumpers that, it's now all instinct everywhere else you go.
I, I appreciate that. Also, your perception of my financial picture is definitely a little skewed. I'm not sitting anywhere close to the floor. Like I'm not. The only time I sit by the floor is when
You're
the
right.
usher.
I underestimate it. You're in the suites, not the courtside
Yeah, that's
seats.
right. I'm in the suites. That's exactly right. You use the phrase suites for upstairs, right? Because that's exactly where I am. And to give credit for location, Mark, in fact, is in the bowels of the crypto arena. He is at the Lakers Warriors game, further showing how deep he is in the NBA media landscape. All right, boys, glass half full. So we're on the other side of a huge trade. We've spent the last week reading about all the trades that the other teams were making. We had all this FOMO here in Golden State. And finally, we're a part of it, Mark. We finally made the trade. The second score is coming. Jimmy Butler is en route. As I speak, he may be on a private plane, speeding his way towards whatever city the Warriors will be playing when he joins us. Give me your immediate takes here. Things that you like about this trade for Golden State, things that you don't like so much.
Well, I think it all ties together, but I mostly like the deal than dislike it. A lot of it was circumstantial as far as Jimmy Butler's best player available, in Jimmy Butler's case, best team available. As of a few weeks ago, I even wrote a column for one of the many websites I wrote for where I said that, practically speaking, the Warriors should do absolutely nothing before the trade deadline. Not to say that that's an acceptable route. It was just that I didn't see there being a lot of valuable options unless the Warriors want to get rid of their entire cupboard. And that included any possibility with Jimmy Butler, because if they were to get Jimmy, they would have to get rid of, I think, everyone on the team except for Draymond Green and
Mhm.
Steph Curry, only presumably because the Warriors would draw a line in the sand that those two players aren't available. And point number two is I had concerns about Jimmy Butler's durability and age. But here, I think it makes sense. He still has a window to help Steph Curry and Draymond Green because they're on the same window. They're three accomplished
Yep.
players. They're later in their career. They know they need each other. And even though the Warriors had to give up, significant amount of their depth in the form of Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, Lindy Waters III, a first round pick, they still have Jonathan Kuminga. They still have good depth players like Kevon Looney, Gary Payton II, that they clearly have ditched the whole two timeline approach. It's now
Yep.
win now approach, but the cupboard isn't completely empty. So I think all things considered, for what the circumstances are, it's a good deal.
Love this. Quick hitters for me. I like discounts. I just like sales prices, man. Like just even things I don't need. Like I'll go to like the supermarket and mangoes are on sale. I'll buy like 100 just because I feel like I'm saving money. I like that the Warriors got a discount on a real difference maker. We've been desperately seeking a second scorer. And when we had these conversations, I mean, this Jimmy Butler edition isn't a new idea. We've been talking about on this podcast for months. And when we talked about it previously, it's all been multiple first rounders. It's all pre-assumed that Kuminga would have to be involved. Maybe it'd be Pajemski too, maybe TJD. It was all these pot sweeteners that you thought for sure you'd have to include. And then between then and now, his value cradles, but it cradles only there, craters only there, not to the rest of the league. It's because of his relationship with Miami. So I like that we got a discount. I also like we got an infusion of entertainment. I'm not even touching on will the Warriors be better? That's a question I'm going to ask you in a second. I'm touching on will the Warriors be more entertaining, more reason for us to tune in? Absolutely. I'm in a ticket group with a bunch of other people. One of the conversations I've had with some of them are the ticket prices going down. Can Lacob continue this if they're like a sub 500 uninteresting team? And the addition of Jimmy Butler changes that. There's a reason now to care again, to really be engaged. So two things I liked, a couple I don't, but I'll save them. MT, we haven't heard your take on Jimmy Butler. What do you think, man? Things you like about this deal?
I It's interesting that you're calling it a discount. I feel like paying him 55 million a year is not a discount.
The contracts I don't like, and we'll do that next. I just mean
Okay,
what
cool.
they had to give up to bring him in player
Got
wise,
it.
the
Got it.
trade
Got it.
itself. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I think all in all, I like it. To Mark's point, the timelines match up, and we're mercifully going off of the two timeline strategy, which, if you have to pick one, I think optimize Steph's window is where we've been landing on past episodes. But I like the trade. It's sad to see Wiggs go. I would have loved to see Heald be included instead of Wiggs, but that was never going to happen from Miami's perspective.
And
Um,
money.
yeah, and money, true. But like the at the end of the day, we were a 500 team, and to continue to think that this team was just going to turn it around and find the same mojo and playing style that had success early in the season when Melton was still healthy, I think was fool's gold. So you had to make a move. We had to make a move. I think this was a great move, especially if it's true that KD was not interested in a reunion. I think we got the next best option.
Mark, I'm going to come back to you with a Draymond question here. All right. Before I do, Maxime MT, would you have preferred it was Draymond and not Wiggins? Because when I mean the Heat didn't have interest in Draymond, and so this was always going to be Wiggins. But when we were pursuing Kevin Durant, the kind of unspoken truth was that the Warriors were willing to include Draymond Green. I mean, what was reported was the Suns have interest in Draymond, and so the fake trades all had him in that salary slot, not Wiggins, right? So in this trade, if it had been up to you boys, would you have preferred Draymond be on his way out?
Oof. I think in a vacuum, yes, but in actuality, for the makeup of this team, I'm actually more excited to have Draymond than Wiggins.
Yeah, I still think Draymond's the heartbeat of the team. We said it during our dynastic run, and I think it's still true today. Uh, for Steph to lose Clay is one thing. If Steph lost Clay and Dre, I think that would be too much, and he would end up asking for a trade quietly.
Do you agree with that, Mark? Do you think he's still the heartbeat?
I do. I think even during the dynasty years when they had four All-Stars, I don't think they were the most talented duo, but I always thought that Draymond and Steph were the most important duo
Huh.
out of the four players because of the complementary skill sets, the different leadership styles. And I think that if you were to look at Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry as a duo, yeah, they have good chemistry. Andrew Wiggins is a good scorer, he's a good defender, but his defining skill set is less consistent than what Draymond's defining skill set is. I think the other thing is that you would have some roster redundancy, so to speak, because Jimmy Butler
Yep.
is a great scorer and he can provide some perimeter defense. So it's going to be a net downgrade when it comes to that perimeter defense because Wiggs was great in that department,
Sure.
but they have Draymond, who has been a backstop for a while now with all five positions.
I'm going to answer my own question, and then I got a more important one for you. Would I've included Draymond and not Wiggins? To borrow your phrase, Maxime, in a vacuum? Yeah. Yeah. Wiggins is having one hell of a season. But with Butler coming back and the relationship that Steph presumably has with Draymond, no. And it's the intensity. It's that combination of Draymond and Jimmy Butler that's really sexy to me. I like that we've got two alpha dog assholes on the defensive end, and I think that that's ultimately going to serve us well. I mean, I can just see that going in the right direction here. So we will find out. I'm really distracted by do you really guys think that Draymond is still the heartbeat of the team? Because I don't know if that's true. I don't know if they still look to him to set the table the way that he used to, that he can still be the guy who holds everybody accountable. That you still view him in that light?
I do. I think the difference is that this is happening more on the court than off the court. But that's always, I think, what I've meant by it. I think he is still the one who's clearly seeing what's going on, who's going to be able to help Jimmy Butler acclimate as quickly as possible to how we move through things. I think he really still drives the engine.
The thing I wanted to ask you, Mark. So what I love about you, I mean, I love a million things about you, consider you a close friend. But what I love about your presence on the show is that you give us a national perspective. You're not stuck just here. And right now we need it. I'll tell you that I listened to a bunch of sports radio on the way in today. And in this little niche here, people are really upset about Wiggins specific. Most consistent player this year. Best perimeter defender. Finally figured it out. 22 Wiggs is back. This is a guy we desperately need. I need national perspective. Who is a better player, Jimmy Butler or Andrew Wiggins?
Well, that's a tough question to answer because we're looking at all the context. Jimmy Butler was not a good season or good player this season because he was with Miami Heat and he was upset with his role. And then he was going through multiple suspensions. And so Andrew Wiggins, I thought, rebounded from, a tough season last year, but I don't think it's to the same level of value as it was during that 2022 NBA title run. But again, I think it more has to do with roster construction than who's a better player than what. So I'm looking more at the chemistry standpoint with Draymond and Jimmy and Wiggins. To the point that you mentioned about is Draymond still the heartbeat of the team? No doubt he lost a lot of equity when he punched Jordan Poole, not just with Jordan, but with everyone on the team. So yes, you'll be the first to admit that his leadership capital took a huge hit. So when I'm talking about heartbeat with the team, it's the defensive intensity, it's the decision making, it's his skill set on the court that helps everything else be in a string together.
And to give you credit, that Orlando win, when we go down the stretch and they give it to Paolo, and on at least two occasions, Draymond veteraned his ass. I mean, Paolo is a very upcoming, incredible young talent and is going to have a skill set very soon that even Draymond's not going to be able to stop. But Dre used all that savvy shit we've been seeing him do, for the last 10 years, and was still able to stop his ass. What were you going to say, MC?
I was just going to say, and I think I love that Wiggs had a bounce back year, but I think his 20 and 10 is different, or 17 and 8 is different than Jimmy Butler's. Wiggs is usually a little quieter. It's not always in the biggest moment. It feels like empty calories at times. Whereas Jimmy Butler's 17 comes usually at bigger moments in the game, and it helps ice a game, put a game away. So I don't think all 17 points per games are created equal, and this is one of those scenarios.
You know what we need right now? Remember the image, and we're a little bit removed from it now, but when Jimmy Butler willed them to the finals on his own, there was those couple times where we saw him going, "This is my shit," when he's screaming in Boston and in these various locations. That, more than anything, more than his scoring, more than his defensive prowess, that right there, that I am going to will this to happen, is what this team needs. We need somebody to wake them up and shake them. And I think that's what Butler will do specific. Mark, how do you view the Warriors now? All right, Butler's on the team. You know, they're about 500. You know, they just dropped a game to a team that is desperately playing capture the flag. You know, Utah wanted to lose the game. The Warriors would not allow them to. So we're now bringing in Jimmy Butler. How do you view Golden State?
Well, how I view Golden State pre-trade is they may or may not make the play-in tournament. As we speak, they're in
Yep.
11th place in the West. How I view the Warriors now is, yes, safe to pencil them in as a playoff team and avoiding the play-in altogether.
Okay.
I'm not going to thrust them as championship contending status. I think right now, most realistically speaking, their first or second round exit, but at least they position themselves to get to the playoffs and also
Exactly
have
right.
the experience and talent to be able to have an upset under the guys that maybe there's a higher seed that has unforeseen injuries, under the guys that in the playoffs, theoretically, anything can happen. But I think this was more to ensure they're a playoff team this year, have a bridge toward making more offseason moves this summer, and then see if they can become one of those top contenders next season. And I think the other thing that we have to keep in mind with Jimmy Butler is he's going to have a lot of FU energy to show that actually he is a good teammate and this was more Miami's fault than his own shortcomings.
Yeah.
And so he's, at least in the short term, in his self-interest, is going to be wanting to be on his best behavior,
Yep.
following the team pecking order, showing all the good things that we saw with Jimmy Butler at the beginning of his time with Miami, where he relied on his competitive will, his clutch play and key playoff moments. You're going to see that version of Jimmy Butler with Golden State as opposed to what we were seeing earlier in the season with Miami of being upset with reduced roles and pouting and obviously drawing suspensions.
I don't like the contract. $121 million is ridiculous, but I do like that they'll have an off season where, okay, here's our guys. You know, we've got it out. We know who our second scorer is. We know what the basic outline of this team looks like, and then they can build around that. I do not think they're contending this year, but can I squint and see a contending team now that he's here? Sure. You know, I think there's going to be other additions. MT, do you agree? Is this a surefire top 6 team now?
No, but I
Fuck
wouldn't
you,
be
MT.
surprised if Jimmy Butler willed us into it, despite our perceptions. I think the eye test says no, but to your point and Mark's point, you know, that will and that FU energy is from Jimmy Butler as a player is strong enough to make some moves. And the West, you know, is so bunched up, you know, outside of OKC and Houston and Memphis, you know, from 4 down is it's there for the taking if you go on a run.
If you are Mike Dunleavy or Kerr or anybody, do you talk to Draymond? Do you acknowledge that he was on the table? You know, like, is that a thing? I mean, because they didn't like no, the Warriors didn't ever come out and say we're willing to trade Draymond Green. But that Kevin Durant trade, you know, like it kind of felt like that was the assumption. Like if it happened, it was going to be Draymond on the way out. So what's the right way to play this? Do you just pretend it never happened? You know, like, nope, like we never put you out there and don't worry about it, never say anything. Or do you go and touch base with him, you know, and like, hey, we didn't want to, but we had to explore all options. Like, what's the move here?
Yeah, I don't think there's any point in having to have any conversation because it never happened. So I think Draymond's in the same vein. I saw some quotes he gave to Anthony Slater from The Athletic after the Warriors Jazz game. And he was asked point blank if he asked for reassurances from the front office that he wanted to be traded. And he said no. And he said, I always talk to Mike, but no, what's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
95% of the things you worry about never come true. And if I did get traded, then it just is what it is. Knowing how Draymond is,
Yeah.
I think the reason why he didn't ask for those reassurances is I think that he feared what the answer would be.
Yeah,
So
sure.
ignorance is bliss. And now that he's still on the team, there's no point in revisiting the past.
I think you're right. And I think his personality type, you know, is I don't think he'd care. I think I do believe even if he knew, I'd like how you phrase that and he wouldn't want to hear it, fine. But I think he's got the type of personality where he can move on now. Even if, you know, he was out there, I don't think you'd have to touch base with him because I don't know if it's like festering. You know what I mean? I think it'd be okay. Well, how would you boys do? If your name was involved in trade rumors and then you didn't get traded, would you be able to move on immediately, or would there be some resonant pissiness for for a little while there?
I think the relief would allow me to move on.
Yeah, I think I would be pissy, except having seen Luka move. If Luka can move, then I can move. So I think that changes the calculus in my mind, and I respond like Miles Turner did, where as soon as the deadline passed, he put on his Twitter feed or X feed the Survivor logo, and like he survived essentially.
I would be the most passive aggressive pain in the ass. Like I'm like unbelievable. First couple practices, whatever. You're like, Draymond, make that move. Like, why don't you ask Kevin Durant to make that move? Yeah, like, I guess I don't even know why you're talking to me. I should be in Phoenix right now. And then
Go
it would
up in
go
the Suns
away.
jersey.
I'd feel hella bad. Yeah, hell yeah. I'd show up in a Phoenix practice jersey, the first couple of times. Oh, hey. Oh, am I in the wrong place? I thought I was gonna get a statue here. Instead, I got a fuck you from you guys. It'd be like those kind of takes.
I think the fascinating thing about Draymond is clearly we've seen on the court. There's a lot of discussion throughout his career as does he know where the line is and what does he need to do to make sure he doesn't cross it? He's had
Yeah.
a lot of hits, a lot of misses on that. When it comes to the business element of basketball, he very well knows when not to step over the line. So I
Yeah.
don't even think
It's a
it's
great call.
anything that he's worried or considering about.
I love that you said there's been a couple of misses on that. I like the idea of him in the locker room in Phoenix, and he's like, "When I punched Nurkic, was that too much? Should I go? Was that a couple steps too far?
You
I
know
don't
what?
know. It felt
It would
right."
have been a mute point anyway because he got traded shortly after.
Factually accurate. That is 100% right. All right, I vamped. I tried to pretend this wasn't happening. You are literally in the fucking epicenter of Luca land right now in crypto arena. So I got to ask you, dude, how are Laker fans processing this? What's the other when anytime anybody talks about the Luca trade, all of our focus is on Dallas and what the hell were they doing? This doesn't make any sense. Nobody ever asks how happy the Lakers are. I don't really want to know the answer, but I have to ask you, what's it looking like there, Matt? Is it just euphoria or what?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that what's going on here is a lot of times the Laker fan base has cemented a reputation, some of it accurate, some of it
Accurate.
exaggerated, where they feel entitled to get any trade just because they're the
Yeah.
Lakers. And this fell into that, guys. When you look at the Pau Gasol trade in 2009, when they gave up Kwame Brown as the centerpiece. It was seen at the time as this completely lopsided trade, so much that Greg Popovich, the Spurs coach at the time, said there should be a committee that has veto power to nix bad deals. We have seen since then that Marc Gasol blossomed into a really good
That's right.
player. They had a lot of good assets, but that trade, I think, epitomized a lot of this attitude from Laker fans that they should be able to make any move they want without giving up consequence. And here you go. Now, ironically, with the Lakers themselves, there was a lot of mixed feelings. They're very high on Luka, but Anthony Davis meant a lot to the organization. When he talked to people like JJ Redick and LeBron James specifically, I think there was more of a sadness initially that they lost AD because of a few things. He was obviously a key player with that 2020 NBA championship, which does not deserve an asterisk. I covered them in the bubble with a lot of tough circumstances during that pandemic time. But also, there was all this talk about Davis on how inconsistent he was and injury prone. But when you look at the play by play, basically since January of 2023, he had avoided major injuries and was playing at a high level.
Hmm.
And so I think there was this feeling of sadness that, look, he did a lot for the organization just to keep them afloat and they had to go with him. But I think as they process moving forward, they're going to be giddier that they have Luka Doncic. He's a generational talent. Rob Pelinka, uh, said that this was a seismic move in the Lakers organization. And so when you're looking at expectations, I think in the short term they can actually be really good, specifically because they got Mark Williams, a really good center in Charlotte. That I wouldn't vault them into championship contending status this season, but they can still be a pretty good team in the playoffs. But long term, they've set themselves up for the next generational star post
Ugh.
LeBron James era. And I'm on record here. I've already written it. Like he's going to win at least 2 titles with the Lakers. He's going to get his number 77 jersey retire with the Lakers. So get used to it, guys.
Why
Luka
the
is
fuck
here
did
to
I ask you
stay
this
as a
question?
as a
Why did I
Laker
ask you this
luminary.
question anyway at all? I like you dropping there like, oh, they were super sad. It was really hard. Fuck out of here with that. They are definitely, I'm sure they were 1,000%. This wedding ring, for obvious reasons, means the world to me. I have a nostalgic relationship with it. It, shows this thing I went through with my wife. Obviously, love it. If you came and said, I will trade that for a $2 billion ring, I would trade it in a heartbeat. It hurt me for a second, but like, no, you can have it. I'll take the $2 billion ring. I'm sure that they did have a relationship with Anthony Davis, but they got back a 25-year-old generational superstar. Mark, who won the trade deadline? What team got walked away with the best move?
You really wanted to ask that
I already
question?
know it. And that was the
Yeah.
question I was supposed to ask to lead into the Luka scenario. And instead, I just took 2 punches right to my face with how great they're going to be.
How about
Not
this?
sure why I did any of this.
Before answering it, I'll just give you a visual to the answer. This is the team that won the trade deadline, the Los Angeles Lakers. They got Luka Doncic. Now there's, this feeling that, oh, they didn't give up a lot because, they only gave up 1 first-round pick. Anthony Davis is a player of consequence. But when you're talking about a generational star who's 25 years old, I don't care if the Mavericks supposedly had concerns about his conditioning or durability. Last time I checked, they got to the NBA Finals last season. He's on 5 first-team All-NBA teams. He's only going to continue to get better. And under this context that LeBron James can become the Yoda to Luka, who's now this young Luke Skywalker, the sky's the limit for them long term. The other thing, getting this Mark Williams trade is very key short term because they're currently a bad defensive team. He's a great defender. They finally have a center after losing Anthony Davis. So yeah, they won the trade, and I will end this answer with a cap here. They're going to go further in the playoffs than the Warriors this season.
Oh my God. Well, you know what? That is the perfect transition because I actually had a visual accompaniment to my take too. It's this. Go fuck yourself. I don't like any of these tags, left, right, or center. This is all terrible, and it is what it is.
I keep seeing people walk behind Mark, and I'm just waiting for LeBron to be giving Luka a piggyback ride and the next group of people. That's like walking behind him. But serious question, Mark. If you had to put a percentage on how confident the Lakers are that Luka re-signs and doesn't join Wemby and the Spurs or Joker and the Nuggets, where would you put that at?
I'll put it at 95%. I mean, technically, he hasn't committed to that. We'll see how the season plays out. But I think the Lakers made this move more for the future than the short term. Anything that happens in the short term is a bonus. And I think that Luka Doncic sees this tremendous opportunity. He's 25 years old. He can become the next Lakers star. And there's a lot of players that have been in this lineage who have retired jerseys directly across from me. They're guys like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. He has the opportunity to be that kind of franchise player. I think the other thing is that even though LeBron James is on the team, it's now Luka's team. He's going to be the person that they care about the most as far as how they build the roster around him. And even though LeBron will be the locker room leader and I think helps with, unlocking Luka's game to even greater levels, this is all about the Luka Doncic era moving forward. I think the other thing, even though he's never been with the Lakers, there is a feeling that he has an appreciation for everything. Kobe Bryant, approached him. Incidentally, the last time he was at crypto.com arena before his tragedy, where he approached Luka Doncic, spoke to him in Slovenia from a courtside seat, and they embraced. Kobe was a huge fan of Luka and vice versa. Luka's first game against LeBron, he actually got a signed jersey from LeBron, and Luka wound up framing it. So what I'm getting at is Luka's going to have his own reasons to have an FU tour this season because of Dallas trading him. And I think that he's going to want to prove that he is not this high maintenance player who's just relying on talent alone. He's going to have a buy-in in chipping away at any deficiencies he has with his conditioning and his defense.
Last 2 quick takes on Luka, and then I got a Jimmy Butler one to finish it out here. The conditioning take is absolutely bananas to me. Absolutely bananas. He's got 5 already in his first 7 seasons, 5 all NBA appearances. If he was 450 pounds smoking black and milds on the court and like doing fentanyl at the timeouts, still you keep him. Like, what are you talking about? He's been nothing but successful. So that drives me crazy. Two, if he left, if after this whole thing goes down and he's like, nope, actually, I want to go play with Nikolai, that would be the greatest story of all time. I don't think that's going to happen, but I genuinely want it to happen. Last question about Jimmy Butler. Over under, boys. 0.5. How many All-Star games does Jimmy Butler go to as a Golden State Warrior? Do you take the over or the under?
Under, but not because he's not going to play well. It's just the West is stacked and it's hard to get an all-star nod. There's a ton of snubs on the West side, but I think he'll have the numbers that he can compete for being a snub.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then
he'll be
again,
the.
also-
Oh, go ahead.
Well, then again, All-Star starter Andrew Wiggins is now in the East, so that opens up a huge hole for him. But
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the under. I don't think Jimmy Butler has the same international appeal that Andrew Wiggins had because of some of that fan partnership initiatives.
K-pop.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, I think he's not gonna make an All-Star appearance mostly because of where he's at in his career, his age. I don't think he's gonna play all 82 games, but he's gonna contribute to winning basketball. And if you're a Warriors fan, that's all you should really care about. Is he contributing toward winning, and is he going to help the Warriors reach a higher level? I don't know if it's championship caliber level, but given the context where the Warriors in, it's going to be substantially better than 11th in the West.
It's relevance. It escalates us back into relevance. There's a reasons to watch the game, both entertainment wise and then impact wise. I also take the under, but I think the most positive thing I can say about that is it'll be a justified appearance on the All-Star votes. You know, like right now when you go and you look at the Warriors who you might vote for, Steph for sure, and then I don't even know whose face you'd put up. You know, like maybe Wiggins, maybe Draymond. That question will be conclusively answered. Of course it should be Butler. That would make sense, and then he probably doesn't go. Mark, thank you. I know how busy you are. I know that you're at the game right now, and I know that I am not the only person who needs way more Medina in their life. For everyone else, where do they go?
Well, Bram, as you alluded to, there's a lot of outlets I'm working for, so I'll start in 3 categories. Writing, it's Sportskeeda, Athlon Sports, and RG.org, Sporting Tribune. TV, it's a little more simple. CBS LA, Spectrum Sportsnet. Radio, Fox Sports Radio, and the radio, it's all the national outlets. So you can tune in anytime in the Bay.
We appreciate you, and judging only by the flashing lights all around you, you need to get the hell out of here. Looks like that game is starting. For us, you know where to go. We are on social media everywhere. We're on YouTube, where Maxime continues to do a great job, and we are on podcast services everywhere. But if you're listening to this, you already knew that. Go Warriors, and hopefully we'll see you real soon.